right, fam.
I
You know
see
what it
you. I see
is.
you, DJ.
What's up, man? What's good? From
Yes,
everybody,
indeed. Go ahead. Go ahead and kick it off, man.
Monday. Myself, cousin Ed, James Donnie, rest of leadership. Really appreciate the fact that you continue to take time to come here and do what we affectionately call building the whole person. Um, I'm gonna yield the floor for a moment and give it to cousin Ed to just provide a little context and background on tonight's guest speaker. And one of the things that I just wanted to briefly highlight is the fact that we continue to talk about inclusion, not only here, but I'm sure that's something that you all are hearing from a corporate standpoint. But talking about it is not enough. You have to put it into action. And I think what you're going to hear from tonight's guest is someone who is a representation of putting that in action. But we're fortunate enough to be able to spend some time with her tonight so that she's representing for all of the female leaders that we have within this group. Our demographic is probably about 60, 65% female. And we always, want to make sure that we're pausing to acknowledge the contributions and the leadership that you all collectively give to the group. And representation matters, and it's extremely important that you hear and see from strong, powerful women that look like you who are doing the things that need to be done to dominate life, the boardroom, family, um, literally do it all. And so, with that, I'm going to yield the floor to Cousin Ed for a little bit of background, and then we'll get into introductions and get started.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And once again, good evening, everyone. I like to say welcome to the 2022 kickoff for Motivational Monday. So this is the first one we're having that's actually open to the public for this year. So welcome everybody back who has been on before, and for those who have not been on, we welcome you for the first time. And my partner in crime, my partner in business, my brother, just gave an introduction of the show. But just to give you a little bit more context, it's something that we were sitting around toying back and forth about some of the things that we went through in corporate America and positive things, the way we've been built, the training we've had, the meetings we've been in, and we said that not everyone is able to get that kind of training. So we talked about it. We talked with leadership, and we said let's bring it to the community. Let's bring it to open the doors to everyone to get some of the things we've able to have. So tonight we have a phenomenal guest, um, Dr. Pia Washington. So you see, I had to put that doctor on it. And how'd you say yesterday, Destrian?
Got to
You
put
see,
that
put
PhD on it, that respect.
got to put that PhD on it. So I'll give you a little history. I was I'm in an actual kind of large real estate deal, and I was looking for a firm to try to help me out with some of my tax structure and some of my business structure, and was introduced to a company that she's actually vice president for. And in being part of some of their conversations and some of their meetings, I saw this phenomenal young sister. Is the best way I can say sister that was the only one in the room, right? And she is, like I said, vice president of education of finance, and that was big. I kept telling Destrian about it, and I'm like, yo, there's one sister over there that does it all. She's over this portion of it. Now the company's a large company; they have different parts, but to pick her to be vice president says something. So I linked up with her on LinkedIn and chatted back and forth with her. Come to find out, we know some of the same people. She went to school with my cousin and my wife, and it was a small world. Everything came full circle. I was like, we got to do something with you and bring you onto the show. So myself and Destrian had a chance to talk with her and had a great conversation yesterday. And we thought it'd be very, very important to bring her to you, to the community, so she can share some of her experience, some of her knowledge. And also, she at the end, we'll talk about something she has coming up this weekend. But for her to be representing us with, especially Black History Month coming up, we wanted to make sure that we brought her to you. So I cannot give all her accolades. I'm gonna let her tell her own story, and That's when you want to do any housekeeping before we go any further?
Absolutely. So, family, you know, look, we want this to be engaging. We bigged you guys up when we spoke to her. We told her that you come off mute. You're an engaged group. You're lively. You're not afraid to ask questions. This group is curious. We're here again to. We're a trading group. Yes, it's about money, but we believe. One of my colleagues always says that people are more important than things. And as we talked last night with Dr. Washington, it's very clear that she follows a very similar mindset. The only thing that I would say is let's be respectful. Raise your hands in the group. We all been here before. We know how we run this call, how we operate. But please, we want to make sure we get your questions answered. So keep the questions coming in the chat. We'll try to answer them throughout. And we'll have some natural pauses just to make sure that everyone can jump in. So without further ado, the next voice you're going to hear is going to be Dr. Pia Anderson. Like Cousin Ed said, very extensive resume. I don't know how she amassed that in her short period of time, but we're talking almost 27 years of experiences in the financial services arena with roles ranging from, treasury analyst for some of the major institutions in the country to going out and then also starting her own 501c, as well as her role at one of the largest asset protection firms in the country. So we talk about defense, we talk about offense here. Here's a way that she's going to talk to you a little bit about how we can do both, but we'll also get some personal background on how she's laid a foundation to success. So with that, Dr. Anderson, I'm sorry, Dr.
Washington.
Washington, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I just want to say how grateful I am to both of you for inviting me today. I love this. This is something that, speaking to, my people, I can say my people is one of my true passions in life. In addition to money and finance, this is what I love to do. So I was very grateful to Cousin Ed for reaching out to me, connecting on LinkedIn, and inviting me out. I apologize in advance because I'm just getting over COVID. So my voice might be a little scratchy, but I still love to talk.
Can I jump in for 1 second? Can I jump in
Sure.
for 1 second? It's something that me and Destrin forgot to do. Can y'all please come off of mute and welcome Dr. Pia Washington to the call?
Welcome, Dr. Washington.
Welcome, beautiful lady.
We
Appreciate
you.
Washington,
Welcome,
Thank you
everybody.
for being
We
here.
appreciate you.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. That was wonderful. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. You got a great group here. I'm excited.
We're fortunate.
So let's see. Where do you guys want me to start? I'm an open book.
Well, basically, like we talked about, we would like to know about your history, what got you to this point. So, we don't want to know you can tell us about your childhood, but what got you to
I was
to
born.
get to. I know. But yes, what got you to this point? From college, and this is this something you always wanted to do. A little bit about yourself.
Oh, sure. Okay, that's easy. So, funny thing about me is that I made up math problems as a child. So, when I was going into college, I knew I wanted to do something with business and specifically finance, not accounting. Don't ask me how I knew the difference, but I just had a thing for the markets, stocks, etc. But a very important thing for me early on, also, I don't know how many of you have heard of Inroads. Inroads is a national organization. I was, yeah, so privileged to
I'm
be
an
a part
Inroads
of
grad
Inroads.
too.
There you go. So,
Yep.
I knew we were
Same.
supposed to be in the same circle for a reason. And so, getting that start, in right out of high school, interviewing with a company, and actually Eaton Corporation was the company that I interned with, and they ended up making me that offer, going into my senior year, which is the goal, right? So going into my senior year, I was able to know that coming out, I was going to have my, my position as a treasury and investment analyst coming right out the gate, which I don't take that for granted because I am a first generationer. My family, they were they were military, they were postal workers, they were hardworking people, but they had never gone to college. So my husband and I have to talk about my husband because we met in 8th grade and we've been together since 1983. So you can do the math, but we've been together. And so, our journey has been one where we both were, first time, college students, and we went through that journey together. So it was definitely not easy, going through it, but having an organization like Inroads definitely helped. So I knew what I wanted to do. Love the movie Wall Street. It came out in 1987. For you youngins who've never seen it, it's a great movie. It's a great lesson in what not to do and how not to behave. Right? Greed is not good, right? We don't want to be greedy. And I believe that money is just a manifestation of who you are. So what you do with money is the same thing you would do without money. And so I feel very strongly about that. So it was a great movie to teach me what not to do and how not to behave. And the rest, as they say, is history. I started out doing S&P 500 futures. Now here I am, 22 years old, coming right out of college. I'm trading S&P 500 futures for a $1.5 billion in-house pension fund. Do you think that I had the confidence and the knowledge to really do what I was doing at the age of 22? Absolutely not. I had the confidence, but not necessarily the knowledge. And I'll never forget a defining moment for me, though, was I started to, they had a program, where I could go to work on my MBA. So I was going to Weatherhead at Case Western Reserve in Cleveland. And one of my investment courses, I mentioned what I was doing for work, and the white male professor, because they all are white males in my industry, and they definitely were back then, said that he basically called me a liar in front of the whole class, said that that was not what I was doing, that there was no way that a company like Eaton Corporation, a big, Fortune 100 company would be trading futures in their pension fund. And I said, well, I do it every day. That's my job. It's part of my job description. I'm happy to have our treasurer and CFO come to the class. And so that was a very valuable lesson. Number one, it was like, don't try to discredit me, don't question my integrity. But more importantly, it was be about the business of doing and not just teaching. So, Cousin Ed mentioned my title, VP of financial, whatever the heck, in training and investing, whatever they call me. I don't care what they call me as long as they call me, but that's my title. And I think it's very important that you're doing what you're teaching. Right. So I feel very strongly about my team that works for me. They need to be doing the strategies that we teach with regards to stock and real estate investing and things of that nature. The majority of our firm, because we do work with investors and entrepreneurs, most of us are very entrepreneurial, and we have multiple businesses and entities and structures that we do outside of this company. And that's very important to me. So that professor in my MBA that's teaching everybody else, how to get an MBA in finance and investments, didn't understand what was actually happening. And I don't care. You guys don't know how old I am. It was in the early 90s, it was like 1993, 1994, right? So he was out of touch with what was actually going on. And so that was important to me. And that boosted my confidence like no other, because I'm like, you know what? I'm doing things and learning things and actually engaging in things that he has no idea, and so that was important. That was an important milestone for me. And then always been entrepreneurial. So no matter what we did, like for corporate, we always had what they call a side hustle. We always have, I counted, I think we've had over 15 different businesses over the course of our life, and we have 4 beautiful grown children and 2 beautiful grandgirls. And, we've had really successful businesses and we've had really horrible failures. Like I opened a Christian bookstore in this really elite mall in Ohio, but it was in a predominantly Jewish neighborhood. So, all my little Christian books were, because I was 23 though, you guys. So I was 23, and so I was learning, and I just knew it was important to kind of do my own thing. And I really like kids' books, and I thought having a kiosk would be great. And so, it's not to say that we didn't make any money, but just let's suffice it to say that was a lesson in doing my market research a little bit better. It's not just about being in the best mall or the nicest mall. And one quick story is the early one we did was called House Calls, professional cleaning service. Now we both have college degrees. We're not cleaning anything, but we hired a staff of family members, Uncle Pookie and them, and my, you know how it goes. We hired them, and my husband, his background is business, but in the HR field, and then HR and technology. And he went out and negotiated, all these contracts with 7-Elevens. So it was like we could buff them at night and do the cleaning of the floors and things. So we're like, oh, we're gonna make so much money. Do you think Uncle Kenny and Pookie and them showed up to work
Nope.
at 1 o'clock in the morning, midnight? You know, when they didn't show up, who do you think they called in the middle of the night to come buff the floor? So again, we learned some lessons. We want to help family, but sometimes family has to want to help themselves. This is a life lesson for us, because I feel like, you know, when we are educated and we come up a little bit, we naturally want to reach back. I hear a lot of Black folks talking about creating a legacy, and that's important. I just mentioned I have, you know, 4 kids, two daughters, 2 sons, and 2 granddaughters, and we want to create a legacy. But when we talk about a legacy, we're not talking about a generation or two. We're talking about 200 years. We're talking about 300 years. We're talking about trying to undo the things that have been done to us for hundreds, centuries, right? Hundreds of years, not just, you know, a decade or two. That's why we have a nonprofit organization. That's why we do some of the things that we do in the community. And while I will always want to give back. So then just to segue, and then I can, you know, take any questions to kind of how I got where I am, is that my husband and I, we really did early on make some good real estate decisions. So, but, you know, right out the gate, bought a bunch of real estate properties, still have some of those properties to this day, because I believe in cash flow and accumulating things that make me money. And I don't like to sell them. My company that I'm vice president of financial training and investing for is called Anderson Business Advisors. On the asset protection, it's actually a law firm and business advisory firm, but we also created Infinity Investing, and I'm the vice president over there. And Infinity Investing is all about, you know, investing in stocks, options, crypto, real estate, and really creating a cash flow for yourself. And the time horizon for us is infinity. So I know about day trading, but I am not a day trader, right? I'm an investor. So I invest in things that last for a holding period of infinity. Like, again, like, so when I pass away, my living trust is set up when my husband and I go, that we have this nonprofit organization. And we also have things that are going to be bequeathed to our children that are in trust, right? And those are the things that are important to me, that they still have all of those companies and real estate properties and, you know, commercial properties that we own will be, you know, left to them. So I have a lot of funny stories about my businesses and my investments. I have written quite a few books, both on the relationship side, because people think it's fascinating that we've been together for so long. I don't know why, but they do. So we've written a couple of relationship books, and then I've written a couple of books, you know, just about mindset. My favorite is Attracting the Life You Want from the Boardroom to the Bedroom, because that really sums up kind of my life, you know, goal was to always, you know, make sure that I'm doing and living my best life, but on all areas, right? Not just climbing that corporate ladder, because it got to a point, my oldest son, who has sickle cell disease, and I say had, praise God, because my youngest daughter was a 100% match. And, you know, my son was born in 89. He suffered for a lot of years. And it wasn't until 2015, where my youngest daughter was a freshman in college, that we found out that she could do a bone marrow transplant for him, or with him, and cured him of his sickle cell disease. So that was a really wonderful victory. But you can imagine, when he was little, one of the things that I said to my husband was, you know what? I don't want to have to ask another man's permission to stay home when my kid is sick. Like, for real. Like, that was really important to me. Like, I don't want to have to call, you know, Mr. CFO and say, you know, little Levette's having a crisis. Is it okay? That didn't sit well in my spirit. And my husband was like, you're absolutely right. And so that's when we really hit the grind, in terms of always having things going on, so that work was a choice and not a requirement, right? Like, we work, like, we both love what we do, and we do it. Now we're empty nesters. You know, we do it because we love it. And like I said, I teach and do what I'm, you know, good at, you know, and so that's kind of me. That's my story. Any questions? I don't know. I didn't look in the chat. Or
We'll take care of the chat
okay,
for you,
okay,
kid.
perfect.
No worries there.
Okay.
When we do these, cousin Ed and I, we take a lot of notes. And I hope all of you out there are taking copious notes. And we're also gonna disseminate this recording with her permission post call. But please make sure you're taking notes. I see Paris has her hand up. I'll go to Paris, but I wanted to ask you a quick question before that. You talked about some things that kind of grow in succession, so to speak. You talked about your journey getting your MBA, and typically there's this person or this thing that shows up to challenge you. And I think all of us can relate to that. So your professor shows up, he's a bit out of touch and really can't understand. And that's typically how it goes because they don't live, like you said, they don't live what it is they're teaching. And
Right.
so you get that. You could have allowed that to derail you, not allow you to continue to be confident. For some of the folks, especially in an environment like this, you have COVID, you have people, you're forced to return to work in some scenarios where you don't want to. You talked about having multiple side hustles, but you also talked about turning them into businesses, right? So your hustle has to become some type of business at some point. How do you go from point A, hey, I'm young, I'm confident, I'm being challenged. I don't want to have to ask permission to do the things that I want to do. Talk about that grind piece for us for just a moment, and then we'll go to you. We'll come to you, Paris, for your question.
Sure. And it was definitely a grind because, again, I mentioned not only being challenged with being in this environment where, I'm always the only one,
Right.
like from jump, like the minute I got out of inroads, right? It was like, I'm the only one. I'm no longer in this environment with, my people, when we had our little summer get-togethers. And so it was very challenging because, we show up and we have to work, 2-3 times as hard as our counterparts. And so it was difficult in the beginning. And I always knew I always knew I wanted to have a lot of kids. I actually wanted to have the Black Brady Bunch, but my husband was like, nah, they cost too much. So we stopped at 4. But I said, gosh, how am I going to balance it all? Right? How am I going to, work twice as hard, be twice as good as my, white male counterparts and, be a good wife, be a good mom, be a good, business person and develop and grow in all areas. And so for me, it was a couple of things. Number one, faith, and I'm not very religious, but I am very spiritual. I know some of you may or not be able to relate to that, but that's kind of where I am. And I always believed in the power of prayer, along with the power of positive thinking and affirmations. And so for me, it was just always like, I can do whatever I want to do. And when I put my mind to it. So that was real key for me in the beginning. It was like, I got to stay focused on what the goal is. So we always had a goal, before vision boards were a thing. It was 1995. We had just built a house in Sagamore Hills, Ohio, which is not far from between Cleveland and Akron.
Mhm.
And I had said, I put on my refrigerator, what I wanted. Like the things, like it sounds crazy because again, it was not a lot of people were talking about this in 95, but that's what I was doing. So number one, I believed in the power of prayer. Number two, I believed in speaking things into existence and putting the goal in front of me. And then number three, it was about surrounding myself with the right team, surrounding myself with the right mentors, surrounding myself with the right people. Like this organization you have here, like I would have loved to have had a Motivational Monday group of like-minded individuals that look like me. And honestly, I didn't, but I did have some good mentors. I did have females that I looked up to, even, a lot of today, Toby Mathis, who's the tax attorney and founding partner of our firm. I see him as a mentor. We do not share a lot of the same views, but that's okay because I take from him what I need and I leave the rest. It's like a buffet, right? Like I don't have to agree with everything you say, but if I know that you have 400 properties and I know that you only come to this job because you want to every day, not because you have to, then I'm going to listen and take from you what I can, and I'm going to give back. So it becomes reciprocal. And so I think that was important for me early on, I will say, is having that sense of a camaraderie or mentorship or, people that I could surround myself with to help me in all areas, not only on the corporate side and the mentors, but when we talk about mentors, my husband's grandmother and grandfather had been married for, 77 years before they died. But like when we met, they have been married for like 50 years. So I had mentorship for my marriage from them. I had, mentorship from my career. I had good examples of moms and working moms and people who were doing the things that I wanted to do. And so to me, it was always important to lean on that village. And I didn't do it. So I could never sit here and say I did it all by myself. Like, I'm not that great, from the grandparents who helped babysit, when I had finals or whatever I was trying to do, because we were so young and we were always grinding, or, we had to travel for work, or, we were running those businesses and the weekends were busy, and, my mom or his mom or whoever stepped up to take care of the kids. All of that matters, right?
Yeah.
Like, none of us, when we say we can do it all, we really can't do it all by ourselves. If that answers your question.
No, that makes perfect sense. I appreciate that. So we do have 3 questions out there, and I'm very happy to see everyone getting involved. So 3 questions. We're going to come to you, Paris, Rhonda, and then Jessica. I see your question in the chat. We'll take Jessica's question, and then we'll kind of turn it back to Dr. Pia. Paris, you can come off mute. Paris, if you can hear me, you can come off mute. Let's see, ask to unmute.
I just did the same thing.
I got it.
There
Can
we
you
go.
hear me?
Yes, we
hear
can.
you.
So first of all, I have to change that to my name, Tan. It's my daughter's name. So when you kept saying Paris, I'm like, well, who's that?
I'm so sorry.
But first of all, I would like to say thank you so much to Destrian, Cousin Ed, for starting these Motivational Mondays. They absolutely are always enlightening. Second of all, Dr. Pia, you are so beautiful. Thank you for coming on and speaking with us that are like-minded on here, because if we were not like-minded, we would not be here on this call. Your life is really parallel to mine. And I just want to say, thank you for anything that you have to say, because everything that you are saying, it's almost as if it was an epiphany now where my life is now. And hopefully I am gracious enough to be able to follow you, and maybe you can be my mentor.
Love it.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
She's one of your fellow Ohio people.
I love it.
Yes.
What part?
I'm from Cincinnati, born and raised.
Go Bengals.
Oh, who they?
Until they play the Rams. Sorry. I've been in LA for 20 years almost, so 17 years.
But I'm not going to take up too much of your time, but thank you so much for coming on. You don't know how much this means to me, and I know it means to a lot of other people on here too.
Awesome. That makes me feel very happy. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Appreciate you, Paris.
So
I mean, Tan. Rhonda, if you come off mute.
Thank you. I cannot say that I'm for the Bengals or the Rams, but I would like to say, Dr. Washington, really appreciate your time and add me to the mentorship as well. We had a call about a week or 2 ago where there were a lot of individuals that were interested in just the beginning steps in business. So wanted you to take some time to really shed some light and provide insight on, if someone is initially starting out in business, what are some of the first things that they need to do and look out for? And what are some lessons learned that you have taken part of throughout your career that you might be able to shed light on for us?
Okay, perfect. I love that question. Thank you. First and foremost, I would say when you're talking about a business is treating your business like a business and making sure that you do that from the beginning, because it manifests itself in a bunch of negative ways if you do not. Number one, typically, where do we start when we're opening up a business? Now, most people start with what they love or what they're good at, right? Like I said, it's a side hustle. And then the minute that you decide you want to really monetize your, say, whatever it is, your craft, you need to make it a legitimate business. Now, some people out there will tell you, go set up an LLC or a C Corp or S Corp. I will say, depending on where you are and what you're doing, save your coins for that later. It is important to have the proper business structure, but if you're just getting started, it really is going to depend on what you're doing and how you want to go about doing it. I think it is important to set up a structure, but initially, though, you might be running it as a sole proprietorship. But there are still steps that you can take to treat it like a business without spending money to set up an entity. And by that, I mean setting up a separate bank account, right? Making sure that if you're going to run it in your name, you get a separate credit card, right? So that you can establish yourself as a DBA. So even though you haven't set up a legal entity like an LLC or a C Corp, you get into the habit of treating your business like a business, keeping all of your expenses separate, making sure that, everything runs through the business and it's not just, my husband did not understand this and he still doesn't. He has a ministerial certificate and he just married somebody this weekend and he called me and said, I couldn't go because I had COVID. And he called me and he said, is this a business expense? I said, do we have Washington Ministerial Services as a business? No, we do not. Everything is not a business expense. Like, I love you, but until you actually make money at that or want to treat that as a business, that's not a business. But he almost thinks the opposite of most people. Like, he wants everything to be a business expense. And I'm like, no, babe, sorry, that's not. But when you are getting started, you want to make sure that you keep good records, that you don't commingle your funds. That means keep all your business stuff separate. So whatever you're using to buy your materials, all of the things that you're, doing, with regards to like everything, run it through that credit card or that bank account. Secondly, this is really important when it comes to Black businesses. Our friends and families don't always support us right off the bat. And you can't take it personal. You just can't. We are our own worst enemies in a lot of ways when it comes to supporting Black businesses. And it's just, try as we might to overcome it, it's just a fact. And so if it happens to you, I've seen many people who have shied away from their genius because they didn't get the support of their, initial, their close circle of friends and family. Trust me, if they're not liking your posts, they see them. Right? Trust me when I say if they're not buying from you now, they know that you're in business and they're 9 times out of 10 just waiting to see if this is really a business, if this is something that you're just doing like your flavor of the week, but you need to focus on what your target market is. And if that does not include friends and family, so be it, even better, right? Like you got to get outside of your circle of friends because your feelings will be hurt and so will your bottom line when they don't support you, right? And so that's important. And then as you grow your business, we touched on this last night. We were talking about, sometimes people get offers, right? Your business, you might have a brilliant idea and it may be very successful, but it's not just about like sometimes we would make a lot of money. And when I say a lot of money, to me, I'm talking about like hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like in one of our businesses was called Wine Styles. It was a wine tasting room and it was wine retail. And we also owned the territory for Southern California. We had the man try to take part of our territory that we had paid for on the map and give it to someone of the palm colored persuasion. And we had a whole lot of stuff to go with that. But when I tell you, we had invested hundreds of thousands of dollars and we made hundreds of thousands of dollars. But guess what? You're just sometimes you're broke at a different level. And I'm not saying that we were broke, but I'm saying that sometimes we think about that income coming in and it's like, oh man, I'm making all this money. And we don't realize that that's the next opportunity for you to level up. So you might need to take in an investor. You might have somebody come to you and say, I would love to buy your territory. It's so you guys have made it so successful. I'll pay 3 times what you paid for it. Well, do you know how much it's worth though? Like, you know what I mean? Like, do you really know? Do you know how to do a business valuation? And if you don't, I would suggest you talk to someone when you start seeing those types of successes, because that is, I think, another place where, we get a little success, we start making some good money, and then it's like, oh, okay, I made it now. But no, now it's time to level up, and maybe you don't want to sell your business. I have a friend of mine who's a CEO of a of another type of financial firm, and his whole goal is to be bought out. But he has a number. It's an X times number,
it's a
right?
10, at least a 10 multiple.
Exactly, a
He's looking
multiple
for a
of what
10 multiple. Yes.
That's exactly it. So, buying someone out, there's no, I mean, again, unless you just love it, there's no problem with being bought out. But you need to know what your price is. You need to understand how to value a business. And then at some point, speak to a business advisor who can connect you with the person to understand the right tax structure, because you will get to a point. We teach trading a lot, right? We talk about, investing in stocks and options, but for cash flow. So relatively safer options. And one of the things that people always ask is like, how much is too much, right, to do in my own name? Like, at what point does my trading income need to be in a business structure? And we usually say somewhere between $25,000 and $50,000, depending on if you're, very active or not. And then we will teach you how to structure that. Every structure is not for every business, right? You don't just want to run out and get an LLC because you heard somebody on YouTube say you should have an LLC, right? You might want to do an LLC combined with a C Corp and have a partnership arrangement so that you're making payments to the C Corp. So there's a whole lot of things that happen on the tax side and like that we don't even, I think, understand when we're talking about setting up a business. So that's my last piece of advice on that, is to make sure you do get advisement from a business advisor of some sort.
Can I jump in right there?
Of course.
I think
yeah.
one thing we've talked about in our community, we find a lot of us that don't want to spend the money for either one, the education, or
Mhm.
two, the expertise of someone else.
Mhm.
So would you definitely advise, I know you work in that field, but would you advise for people to go ahead and step in that route?
I think again, I caution anybody that I care about to do it slowly, right? I don't necessarily feel like, well, let me say this. Scare money don't make money. We know that. If you're really going into business, you're going to have some expenses. So if you're not willing to educate yourself, then that's a whole nother conversation, because if you can't educate yourself on what you need for your business, then I don't know how you're going to be successful. That being said, like I mentioned about the business structure, Anderson does do business structure and they do LLCs. I was a client before I worked there. I basically talked myself into a job because I love it so much. I love the company. I have Titanium, which is unlimited LLCs, because of the type of investments that I did. So they knew they did my taxes. They started my nonprofit. They knew what I was about. And I was like, look, I'm about this life. I love what you do. I would love to, make this work. They were like, well, we were thinking about doing some financial management and maybe bringing on 4 or 5 people. And I literally said, so you're going to hire me to come in and tell you what you're going to do. And they said, yes, that's what we're going to do. And that's how I got here. But back to your question, Cousin Ed, I think that because that's what we do, we sell that. I don't think it's right for everybody at the beginning. I think that some people, especially if you're just doing like a type of consultant business or a smaller scale, crafting business or something like that, you can run that as a sole proprietor without spending any additional money, maybe get a DBA and all of that. But at some point, when you're making enough money, there needs to be a time where you can go and talk to someone. Now, Anderson does do free strategy sessions. Now, the goal is to get you to get whatever it is, but take advantage of the free strategy session, because they're going to tell you, they're going to put together a wealth plan, a wealth blueprint for you. Now, that's not my team, that's the sales team, but they're called business advisors. And they're going to put together a blueprint for you guys to say, oh, based on, Cousin Ed, based on your real estate deals, you need to be structured this way. These are the entities you might need to have: a Delaware Corp, or we do a lot of Wyoming LLCs for anonymity purposes. That's when you're making a lot of money and you don't want everybody to know your business. I know our people have a problem. They want they want to flex. I'm not a flexer. Okay. Wealth is quiet. It whispers. I don't need everybody to know what I have. I will never be that person posting my cars or all that stuff on social media. But not only that, is because I own a lot of properties. And if you get somebody that wants to slip and fall because they know you own a bunch of properties, they get that attorney and hit that computer and they see Pia Washington or Herman Levette Washington, they're going to say, oh, bet they got all these properties. So we're not just going to go after them for the slip and fall. We're going to go after them because they got deep pockets. Well, if you have your setup properly, they can't hit the computer and see everything that I own, because it's in a state where I don't have to disclose who the members of my LLC and the managers of my LLC are. And so that's another lesson for another day. But I will end with saying that I think there's a time and a place to get that entity structure. And I think depending on what you're doing, if you're doing something big and it could be potentially a lot of money and a lot of liability, you need to seek counsel. You need to understand the tax implications. You need to understand the litigation liability. If everybody wants to do a fix and flip until somebody falls on your property and sues you, right? Everybody wants to be in real estate until something happens big, and then you haven't set yourself up properly, and then you're devastated. So I would say everything has a time and a place, but take advantage of the free types of initial strategy sessions and then see what they're telling you. And it might be a not now, but like if you get to this point in 6 months, come back and see us and we'll set you up, right? That's how I would move if I was just getting started today.
I appreciate that. And
Yes,
that's
I know you about to jump in with one question from the chat, but I want to make sure Destrin posted in the chat also. She mentioned DBA. For those who don't know, he already passed in the chat. Doing business as. So she mentioned it a couple of times. We want to make sure you understand that. So when you're doing business as an entity, you want to make sure that you have it separated, and it's called piercing the corporate veil. So if you're doing things between yourself and the business, and you do things in piercing the veil, they can come after you no matter what you do. So I just want to make sure I mention that. Destrin, I know you're about to go into that question, and you can move on to the next question we have for her.
all right, cool, no problem. So from Miss Jessica Vassar, she asked a question here in the chat. What's going on, Jessica? Hope you're doing well. What are some of the businesses that you and your husband started over the years, other than the book kiosk? I know you mentioned a few along the way, but maybe talk about. Well, actually, if Jessica's in position, I'll let her further clarify what she might want. Whether it's what were the 3 most successful businesses, what did you learn there? Maybe I don't know how she wants to structure that, but she's a very wise businesswoman herself. So
Sorry, I'm in transit from gymnastics. So I dropped it in the chat.
no worries.
Yeah, but yeah, I was more so curious. What were the some successful ones and the lessons that you learned from the ones that weren't successful, other than, like you mentioned, the kiosk location was the issue with that one.
Right. So, okay, a couple things. So one of the most successful businesses is one that we have still today. It's called Camry with a K. Kids Are My Reason Why. And we started that company in our 20s. We're now 51, going on 52. And so that has been one of the longest organizations that we've had, and one of the most successful, because that's typically what we do. A lot of our real estate structures are up under there. Now we've changed it over the years in terms of, because what we were doing in our 20s, we're doing something different in our 50s, right? So we've changed it over the years. That is another key. Whether I was working for NBC Universal or IHOP or Eaton Corporation, all these big companies I work for, it never stays the same. Like, you know what I'm saying? You have a business plan when you get started and you work that business, but if you don't change based on the economic factors going on around you, change toward whatever's going on in your community, it's important to learn how to pivot. Like a lot of people talked about pivoting during COVID, right? Because it changed so many things. And for Anderson, my company, it ended up actually doubling, like in size and in revenue, like overnight, because we had this infrastructure built in of clientele. And I mean, Cousin Ed can tell you he's one of them, but clientele that were built in. And it was like, we went to webinars like that. They used to do in-person events that would be maybe 100 people, 150. We flipped it to webinars. Now we've got 2,000-3,000 people on a webinar, and all over the country, right? Our company is headquartered in Vegas. So I would say the most important lesson, and that the reason why Camry has been so successful, is because we have learned how to pivot over the years. And there have been times where it was a flip mentality, where it was like, we wanted to make that X amount of money. But again, I learned very early on that I like to own my assets and have them continue to produce cash flow. So I stopped selling them. I would just buy them and then rent them out, or live in them and then rent them out. And I started accumulating properties because that's what, I was like, oh, okay. And I look at financial, and we have this in common, Destry, I have a team of financial advisors who do more like financial planning and advising. And one of the things that's important is that we don't talk about your traditional nest egg of X number of dollars and then deplete that. I think in terms of, I spend X amount of dollars a month for my lifestyle. So how many assets do I need to have? How much do I have to have producing? To have being produced from those assets to cover my lifestyle. Whether it's how many, rental homes I need to have, how much income I need coming off of that, how much I need from my trading, businesses, all of my businesses combined. And that's how I look at that. So I would say that's been our longest business. It's been in real estate development and investment. And then I will say my most expensive one was, again, the wine store and the wine territory, because we went big. We were like, okay, we're going to buy this franchise. And then we're also going to buy the territory because we understood the value of duplication, right? Duplicating ourselves. Couple things with that. I should have known before, when we signed the agreement, when we were being referred to as you people. Oh, so articulate. All the microaggressions that were being thrown at us. But, at that moment, it was like, but I'm going to show you, right? Like, I'm like, we're going to do this, right? But I honestly feel like no matter how much money we had to throw at that and how successful we were at it, like, it was always this real weird dynamic between the franchisor and us as franchisees and developers, right? Because we're the only Black wine styles franchisee in Southern California. And I'm not talking about, like, my daughter is best friends with Jordan Woods in elementary school. Like, Calabasas, like, our wine store was in Thousand Oaks. That's next to Calabasas. This is not your everyday, like, this is wine in the upper echelon of Southern California.
Yeah,
like,
that's the mass affluent.
Exactly. And so we're like, oh, we're going to show you now. Couple things. I'll tell you some funny lessons learned. My husband is too social to own a wine store, because I would be like, you pay $15, $20 to come for a tasting, flight of five wines, come in, enjoy yourself and go. No, we close at 10. My husband, it'd be midnight. He'd be like, oh, you got to try this 1990 bottle of da-da-da-da-da. Too social. It became a really, really expensive hobby. It was a lot of fun. Another thing, besides the franchisor, and I'll get to that, I'm real big on now controlling everything I do, not having somebody else control me. And when you're a franchisee, you're not in control, people. I don't care how much money you brought to the table. It's not your deal. It's their deal. And so we had a situation where Amgen, which is a biotech company, where we had all the people, because we both worked there, right? All the people would do their events there. I mean, it was like they were 90% of our wine club members were from Amgen. We were literally like not even 5 miles, 5-minute drive from this huge biotech company, right? Well, that was all fine and dandy until 2008 happened, and everybody was losing their house. And the anchor stores where our wine store was closed because of the 2007, 2008 crash. And then Amgen decided to lay off 3,000 people. Wow. So when I talked about understanding the macro and microeconomic factors in your area, in the country, in the world, like, sometimes things are outside of our control. So now we're looking at a situation where 90% of our wine club members are Amgen employees, and they're letting 3,000 people go.
Right.
It's not a good look. It's not, I don't care what they say about liquor is recession resistant. It's not a good look for high-end wine when people are losing their jobs, right? Because
It's not location resistant.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So we made a lot of money with that. We lost a lot of money with that. We had a really good time. Made a lot of great friends, but it definitely we definitely learned a lot of lessons. I hope I'm answering your question.
Yes.
But
I'm
I'm
hearing
not
some
silliness.
I'm hearing some themes though, Pia. So it sounds to me like, and I try to look at life this way, and I'm trying to improve on it as I get a little bit older and I get a little bit wiser. But it sounds like the things that you guys enjoy doing, your hobbies, if you're spending money there, you turn your lifestyle into a business. And I think I spoke to you a little bit about one of my goals is to get to a point where people ask me a lot now, like, you seem so busy, you're working all the time. Well, it looks like work to you, but to me, it's all the same. My work and my play, I want it to feel and look the same. And so I never get myself burnt out and things of that nature. So it sounds like you thought about things like, you know what? Well, we already have a wine business here. Why don't we're making friends where our friends are in Calabasas, and like you said, I know Thousand Oaks well. One of our better selling territories out there. These are the
Safest
things.
city in the country.
These are the things that people that live here like to do. If we're going to be partaking in that, you mentioned control, but you did not say ownership. You said you want to control it. Do you see a difference in control and ownership? And do you think one is better than the other given certain circumstances?
Absolutely, 100%. I see a difference, and I do think that one is better than the other in certain circumstances. Because if you think about my real estate business, I want to control everything and own nothing on paper. Like I don't want you to see my name on it because I don't want that liability. I don't want to be attached to that, right?
So
Exactly.
my wife is giving me a thumbs up because this is something that I talk about with her all the time. I'm like, look, I'm never starting another business in my name ever.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not, it's a vanity thing for some people, or if that's your brand, like, and that's another thing too. Some people try to make it their brand, but if your name is not really a brand, you're not doing yourself any favors by doing that. Honestly, you're not. So I like on paper for certain businesses, like I said, to control everything but own nothing. Like, even though I really do own it, but nobody knows I own it, right? My XYZ company owns it. And then for things like with the wine store, it was like we owned it, but we didn't really have control over what they did. And then when they really tried to like really try to carve out Pasadena, really out of Southern California territory, Southern LA, like I was like, Pasadena? Like that's the best city we have next to, well, we have Pacific Palisades, Santa Monica, certain parts of Northern LA, Thousand Oaks, all the way through South Pasadena. That was what we paid for. He tried to carve out South Pasadena, and I was like, But
a lot of times they know if they're friends with the city planners as well. They know zoning is coming, and certain areas are going to get tax breaks that others won't. And a lot of people get bought out that way, or they get priced out that way. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it was very interesting. And I was just not here for it. But then we found that the founder of the company was a female. Her idea was wine by style. And it was her idea. She brought in these two men who had been big in the Subway franchising, and so she brought them into her organization to create this franchise model. Well, what they were doing to us, they were also doing to her. These two men took a vote against her as founder to try to get her out. So it was a lawsuit ensued. We took sides. Obviously, we sided with the right side, which was her. Like, so it just got to be really ugly. And I was like, you know what? And this is nothing like, maybe I would feel different if it was like a McDonald's franchise. I know there's a lot of us who do really well in franchise type, things. But for me personally, I don't like that business model. And also, I was like, it's our fifth child. Like, although we loved it, you love it until it's, we're used to going away to Hawaii real quick, but we can't because the weekend is coming. And even though we have somebody running the shop during the day, she's not us. her personality is not my husband's, because I'm not the personality. I'm the number. I'm the one that was always in the back crunching the numbers about how he needs to get rid of people because they only pay $15. He's the social. So they're coming to interact with him. So that means no more vacations on weekends, right?
Yeah.
The business start to own you. And so to me now, like you said, I'm like you. I like to be in the moment, and everything I do now I love. Cousin Ed will tell you, like, I'll pop into the trading room sometimes I don't. I run the office hours, I manage a team. Sometimes I'm not there because I'm just doing what I love, right? Like I'm building a team. I've had no one. Now I have 10 people, and half of them are people of color. There's female, and female. So I'm just doing my life.
Yeah.
Like I'm just living my best life, and I don't want to be owned by a job ever again. I will not be owned by and I called it a job, yes, because even though it was my business, it felt at that point that it was like, oh, we have to be here for this to work, for this to be
Right.
successful. I couldn't shake that. So for a lot of reasons, I wouldn't do that again.
We
I really
definitely
appreciate
applaud you
that.
and what you just said by doing your best life. You are definitely, like I said, you are definitely inspiring. That's one reason why we definitely want to have you on. One thing you mentioned that I wanted to hit real quick. Um, you mentioned about balance, and I think
Mhm.
what you just mentioned about going to Hawaii or being able to leave when you want to leave, having a work-life balance. Did you find it early hard? And now I can see right now you do have a balance, but did you find it hard in the beginning?
Did. It was. I'm not gonna lie. It was very, very hard to have a work-life balance. But I think when you have kids, like they're the reason. Like I said, Cameron, kids are my reason why. And so, my husband and I always had make it a point to make date nights important. We made a conscious decision to try to keep force and balance. Now, were we perfect at it all the time? Absolutely not. But the good news is that we never gave up. Like we always were like, okay, things are getting crazy. Or maybe it was a shift when we moved from Ohio to California. And, I was like, okay, I'm gonna just do my own thing. I'm not gonna go right back into corporate America because I want to make sure these kids who are one of 3 Black families in the whole district, not the school, the district.
Mm.
It was the Woods, the Washingtons, and the Wilsons. And if anybody on here is old enough to know the Wilsons, that's like Flip Wilson's grandchildren. They lived in this city where my daughter went to school, my kids went to school. Jordan Woods and her family, and the Washingtons, my family. And 2 of them are famous. I am not. We are not. So I was very much like, this is important because I don't know these California types, and I'm not necessarily wanting my kids to have the same values that they have. So I had to say, when we moved to California, I'm not doing the corporate thing right away. I'm doing my consulting. I'm doing my own thing. I'm doing the real estate investment. I'm doing all the things that I can control my time, because it was no longer did we have the grandparents all in one city to help out, right? And so that work-life balance looked different when we got up and moved our kids 3,000 miles across the country, right? We had to do things a little bit differently than we did when we were in Ohio. We had to move different. It's what my son-in-law say. We had to learn how to move. And so yes, it was definitely different. I mean, now I'm an empty nester. My grandkids are in Georgia, and so I try to go there once a month. I do what I do from wherever I'm at. That's one of my prerequisites too. I never want to be tied to a physical location. I still have a place in California. We own property in Ohio and Arizona. I'm about to do another thing in Georgia. So I really don't like boundaries because of that. And I mean, COVID just helped that, right? It was just like, everyone's working remote. The webinar, I didn't mention the webinar. All you women that are on here, I'm
I
doing
got you.
a special webinar this weekend for women. It's free, but it's women in investing. So I don't know if you were going to talk about that, Cousin Ed, but I have a link I
Yes,
can share as
I got you.
well. Okay. So yeah. So that's me. Like right now, it's really all about just doing what I love, and it's just me and my husband, and we just go where we want to go when we want to go.
Yeah. we're
I
we're
love
at
it.
the top of the hour, a little bit past the top of the hour. We want to make sure we're not holding you up, but we want to also allow people to ask their last questions if you have a little bit of time left to answer some more questions. But we are definitely enjoying having you here. Is
I
anybody
mean,
else
I
like to
don't
come off mute?
think suffice it to say that we don't have to ask the group if we can ask Miss Washington to come back, Dr. Washington.
Yeah, we pick a
Yes.
topic, man. Like we could go. Like I'm happy to do it. I love this. Absolutely love it. I will say about Saturday real quick. Thank you for putting the link in the chat. Please register. Myself and my co-presenters will be sharing. It says for women, but it's not just for women. Everyone is welcome. But we will be focusing on a lot of things that people don't realize, that women make better investors. We actually do make better investors for a lot of reasons, but specifically on the stock side. And that's important because we also make less money. So there's this huge gender wage gap thing we got going on, and we live longer to make matters worse, right? So we might make better investors, but a lot of us don't know that and don't understand why that is, why the feminine temperament. Warren Buffett, there's a book called Warren Buffett Invest Like a Girl and Why You Should Too by Llewellyn Lofton. It's a great book, but it touches on a lot of the ways that he invests are more of the feminine temperament. You know, a little less testosterone causes us to be a little bit more risk averse, right? And we don't trade as often as men do. We don't necessarily let the ego control us or peer pressure. There's a lot of statistics and research that have been done on why women make better investors, but we don't know it. We don't tell each other that. You know what I mean? Like we don't see ourselves represented enough. And so we certainly don't see Black females represented. I was trying to do a thing on like Black women investors, and it was like, gosh, this is sad. Like big, like at the top firms. The name of the book is Warren Buffett Invest Like a Girl and You Should Too. I think it was written in 2008 or not, maybe 10. It was after the whole crash, but it talks about some of this stuff. But if you come on Saturday, I'm going to give you the highlights of why the statistics show and why it's important for us to invest, because again, we live 5 to 10 years longer than our males, and a lot of times, you know, it's either through divorce or death of a spouse, you know, we end up widowed or, you know, single. And a lot of women particularly haven't planned accordingly, or they haven't set themselves up with their 401ks or their self-directed IRAs or, you know, whatever it is, to make them successful in their future. So that's really a passion project of mine. It's the first time they're ever letting us do it, all women presenters. So I would love for you guys to join us. And like I said, it's completely free. Any other questions for me? I also have another favor to ask, and I don't do this often, but they're making me do a YouTube channel, and I would like for you all to subscribe. I only have 4 or 5 videos, but it's a new channel. It's called Planning with Pia. So I just put that link in the chat. Appreciate you guys every time I get an opportunity to
You do not need to sound like that when you're talking about your YouTube channel.
It's sad. It's a sad little company run YouTube, and I'm like, it's brand new, and I'm like, y'all really want me to do this, and I don't have time, but I'm gonna try to do it because
it's gonna be good. It'll be fine.
She just put one out about ETFs, and it was excellent.
Good.
So
that's funny.
Thank you guys. I appreciate you so much. I really, really do appreciate the support. Any other questions for me? I'm like I said, I'm an open book.
Come on, ladies, especially take this opportunity. Take
So
this
this is-
opportunity,
I just have
and
one
gentlemen,
that was
You
one of the
talked a
main
little bit
things
about your
we talked
marriage.
about. Go ahead, Rhonda. Sorry.
I was just going to say, you talked a little bit about your marriage and how you and your husband for years have just been ride or die, basically. Can you speak a little bit to that in terms of how you've maintained that balance and what's been the key for you guys?
He will say, if he was here, he would say, we never quit on the same day. And I hate that answer because I told him I was never going to quit. There was never a day that I was going to quit. So, but I think I don't tell everybody this story, but I mentioned we met in 8th grade and it was Christmas actually during our 8th grade year, and it was like a teen dance. But I don't tell everyone that the Thanksgiving I saw him and I told my sister and my best friend that was going to be my husband. And they said, you don't even know his name. And I said, nope, sure don't. And I said, but God showed me us together old. That's what I said. I said, God showed me us together old. I was 13 years old. And so for me, quitting was never an option once it was a thing. And of course, like, Christmas comes around. He asked me to dance to Midnight Star Slow Jam. I said, yes. My sister said, no, you're 13, because it was a teen dance, but like older teen, right? And so he was there and I was there, but we probably shouldn't have really been there. And so she was like, you can't slow dance, you're too young. So she separated us. He left the party. And as he was leaving, he said, I'm going to call you. And I was like, but you don't have my phone number. And he left. And I swear on everything that I love, that's our story. And so for me, it was like, it was divinely inspired, because when he called me after I sat by the phone for 3 days, because, back then we had a phone, a house phone. We sat by the phone for 3 days. My sister and my best friend thought I was crazy, because they were like, he's not going to call you. He doesn't have your number. I said, he said he's going to call. He got my number. He found me. He called me, and we've been together ever since. Now, Cousin Ed's wife, no, we broke up in college a lot. I don't know if she shared any of that or she knows any of that, but we broke up a lot in college. So I will say, not necessarily the best advice that I could give you, but what I will say is, during those courting years, it was really hard. It probably wasn't the brightest idea to go to the same college, because we never went to the same middle school or high school. I went to all girls school and he went to the public school, but we went to college together, and that was hard because you need to learn and do that thing by yourself. So we broke up quite a bit, but we always knew we were going to be, I always knew we were going to be together. And so I think through the challenges of a son with sickle cell, having 4 Black children in a school district that, there's only 3 Black families, the LA influences of all the things, whether it's money, celebrity, drugs, like all those things. The one thing we did was we always had each other's counsel, and I would tell anybody that he's the head of the house, but I'm the neck, right? That's the thing you hear. But a lot of women don't like to say that nowadays, like, oh, man's the head of the house, so he's not the head, we're equals. Well, somebody has to be the tiebreaker. Somebody has to be the visionary. And a lot of times that visionary was me, and he let me have that. Sometimes I made more money than him. Sometimes he made more money than me. It doesn't matter, because we're all on the same team. So I think that understanding your role, I think Michelle Obama and former President Barack Obama talked about that. Like, you are playing for the same team. And when you recognize that, you have each other's back always. So, I mean, I don't even know what else, like, we've been through so much. Like I said, with the challenges of, different things, death of family members, sick children, all of that. And at the end of the day, we just always knew we were on the same team. That's really, I mean, we wrote a whole book called Shades of Love, and we interviewed all these couples and been married forever. And at the end of the day, they all said the same thing. Communication, trust, respect, accountability, intimacy, putting each other first. You know what I mean? Like, the kids would be mad when he used to say, I used to say, ask daddy who he loves more. Ask your dad who he loves. And he would always say me. And they would be like, that's not fair. She's only your wife. We're your kids. We're a part of you. And he was like, yeah, but without her, will be no you. And then when you guys are all gone, like they are now, we still have each other. Right. They're gone. Not all of them are married, but they're gone and grown in 4 different states. Right. None of them live here with us in Vegas. So we did our job. We did our job. Oh, man.
That was a great question, Rhonda. Once again, we don't want to prolong the night. If you have any other questions, please come off and mute before we leave our leadership to also speak to you. So anybody else have any other questions, please feel free to come off and mute. And if not, we'll go to our leadership. Where's our sister Lotta? See Lotta online, or Miss Patricia?
I'm here, but I don't have any
There
questions.
we
I'm
go.
just soaking it in. I'm kind of intimidated a little bit because I'm new to business. I'm the one who put that in the chat about being new to business. I'm from the baby boomer generation. I'm from the generation of you go out there and you work and that's it. So this is all new to me, but I'm really interested in leaving a legacy for my family. I have some some people that I feel responsible for other than just my child. So this is what I'm trying to do before I leave this earth.
Don't be intimidated. You can do it, and just
But I'm
surround
gonna.
yourself with the right type of people to help you, to mentor you, and to help
Hmm.
you get the right information.
Well, I'm definitely in the right family right here, GFXTC. Definitely. Thank you.
Love it.
We appreciate that. Anyone else want to come off of mute? Have any questions for Dr. Washington?
I don't have any
PhD.
questions for her cousin Ed, but I just want to thank her for her transparency and her candidacy about, how she started, what it looks like, um, the evolution of how she's transitioned from one to the various businesses and where she kind of is right now, and just um, allowing another Black woman to see that it can happen, it can be done. You're gonna stumble, you're gonna fall, you're gonna make mistakes, but you've showed us how you've taken those mistakes and our lessons is what we call them here, and made them work for you as you transitioned to the next thing. You didn't allow it to stagnate you and stop you. As you say, your husband say, you both didn't quit on the same day, which you say you never had that spirit of quitting. And I just think that
Mhm.
as Black entrepreneurs, which are what all of the women are on this call, beginning, starting, in the middle, on the path you want to be on, it's just good to hear from another entrepreneur how you're doing it and what it looks like. And I applaud you because you didn't have to, but you did. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you.
That was
It's not
definitely
easy
from
to be
our.
transparent amongst people who, you know, you don't know, but I don't know any other way to be. It's just sometimes it's not easy because you don't know how you'll be received, and this day and age, there is a lot of people all talking about all the good things, all
Haters.
the
They're
things.
haters. That's what
Well,
they are,
well,
Doctor.
too, but you hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, I've got this, I've done this, I'm this," and they talk about all the accolades, but they don't tell you all the other stuff, right? They don't. It's not as popular sometimes to talk about those lessons learned and some of the stumbles. But I think that that's important. I think that that's very important.
Well, like me and Destrian spoke about last night, you're definitely amongst family, and this group right here, I can speak for myself, and I know everybody on the line will say this, is unlike any other. And we're a sponge. We're looking to soak up any information is given. So we're definitely glad to have you. Destry, you have any last questions before we go to Donnie and James?
No, man. Just thank you so much. It was a pleasure to speak with you on yesterday. It was a privilege to speak to you today, and I hope that in the future that we can find a way to continue to grow, enhance, deepen the relationship with many people on this call. But as several of the ladies have said, you find mentors in a lot of places, and I think your story resonates so well with so many. And I think, gentlemen, we would be foolish to not, follow up, follow her, subscribe to the YouTube channel, seek information when she's putting it out. She's been extremely successful, but again, more importantly, you're looking at a very authentic, genuine, and a truly good person. So I wish you more success to both you and your husband, and so thankful that you were able to beat COVID. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
James,
Definitely.
Donnie, if you guys want, you can please come off and address Dr. Washington.
First of all, thank you for blessing us with your presence and your time and your expertise and pouring out your knowledge and your experience to our community. We definitely appreciate it. We don't take this moment for granted because you could be doing anything on a Monday night, right? And we definitely gracious that you're spending your time with us. A lot of lessons, a lot of things that you share with us that definitely we'll reiterate in our chat room so we can definitely encourage everybody to subscribe. I subscribe to your channel, so hopefully you'll have more videos in the near future. And also want to just kind of talk about a couple of things, like your background kind of mirrors mine. In fact, I was an Inroads alumni as well. did the same thing. Had a job before I graduated and the whole nine, and also worked in finance. Destiny is one of my colleagues. We've been and one of my closest friends as well. So similar backgrounds as well. But certainly, we hope this is not your last time blessing us. We definitely want to invite you back to speak with the community, and look forward to just following you and soaking up a lot of information that you've shared with the community as we're all on this entrepreneurial journey together. So thank you for sharing your time.
You're welcome. Thank you for
All
having me.
right, absolutely.
Absolutely. I just again another outstanding Zoom, Dr. Washington. Thank you so much. So many similarities, right? And I just go back. I go back to even how you first started in Enrolled. That's how James and I, that's how we met, right?
Mhm.
And years and years later, we get a chance to partner up. That's one of the ways we met. We got a funny story on really how he met. Side note, he kind of stole my girlfriend from me
Oh,
in grade school. No, we had just transitioned from grade school to high school, just like you said, right? You're not supposed to be together in high school. So
mm,
just a lot of great stories. And one of the things we always say is, hey, as long as we don't quit on the same day, this business is going to make it. In Inroads, I had a marketing internship with American Cablevision, and they
mhm.
flew me out to Denver, and I just saw I saw what my life could be because I'm a twin, and my twin and I, we were the first ones to ever go to college in our family. And I saw that and I just saw success.
Mhm.
That was one summer. And then the following summer, I came back and I saw how my manager, she was the one who was training me, uh, she yelled at this employee. And then I was sitting in her office and I'm thinking, did she just really humiliate that woman in front of me like that? Which means she could do me like that too. I didn't go back that following summer. And right out of college, I flipped my very first piece of property my senior year, and I never had a job, right? So I went right into real estate. But again, so many similarities. As you're growing your business, you talked about pivoting, right? We get to a point, where you have to pivot. GFXTC, is that right? Did we have to pivot last year, right? So we grow, and then things get to a certain point, and sometimes you may have to pivot. That doesn't mean loss. Right. And you have to have a foresight enough to say, you know what, you have to have vision. Right. And so again, everything that you said. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And again, you're not getting off this easy. We will definitely have to have you back.
I would be honored to come back at any time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Uh Destrian, cousin Ed, back to you.
Appreciate you guys. Cousin Ed, I don't know if you wanted to kind of wrap the night. I know you usually kind of go down your list of notes, but for me, there were two things that if you guys don't take um, any strategies back around money, she talked a little bit about what you do with money should be the same thing as you do when you don't have it. That really reveals who you are. What Kanye say, being having money's not being broke is not whatever he said, but he was talking about money. And he said not having it is, and it'll really show you a lot about yourself when you get a little bit of money. And the next thing I want us to do for the rest of the week, Dr. Washington talked about when you get to a certain level of success, she doesn't want you to just stop there. She wants you to think about leveling up, right? Don't just get to a certain level of success and become comfortable. So let's put that in our vocabulary, quote unquote, in our quiver for the year. So we talked about being intentional already. Now we want to talk about leveling up. So let's put those things together. We want to intentionally level up. And so that'll be something that we'll continue to reinforce in the group. So, Cousin Ed, I really appreciate you, brother. As always, Dr. Washington, thank you again. But I'll give it back to you for any closing remarks. And we'll let Dr. Washington let you guys know where to find her one more time on Saturday. And make sure you try to carve out some time to be there.
Love it.
Definitely. Um, I went ahead and posted in the Telegram group. I put links we had in the room today. I'll try to repost those before we get off the call tonight. Also, Doc, I'm gonna say Doc. I also you mentioned Anderson and the
Strategy session.
free strategy session. So I went ahead and posted that also. So
Perfect.
that's out there. I
Perfect.
want to offer and invite people to. They offer a free investment room. The next one will be tomorrow, I believe. I'm not sure if you're going to be on there tomorrow with Jason, but I'll post it in our room after this call for the free investment room tomorrow. So we guys for the guys part of Global FX Trade Club, we trade forex, right? We trade foreign currency. She actually, I'll let you explain what is the basic investment room.
So for Infinity Investing, we trade stocks and options. And so we have on the basics, the free room where we do trading, we focus on stocks and or ETFs, and we focus on cover calls. So we basically are instructing any of the members to sell cover calls for cash flow. So that's kind of our strategy. So two streams: the dividend income from dividend paying stocks, which can again be boring, but again, we don't care that it's boring, right? We care that it makes us money. You can't spend appreciation, right? Like Tesla and all the ones that don't pay you any. You growth is great, but that you can't spend that, right? I can't spend that for my lifestyle. So we teach that. And if you sign up for Saturday, you become automatically a free, what we call a basic Infinity member. You can also go to that same website, Infinity Investing website, sign up, and then that way you also can get your own link and email and all that. I don't know, however you do it, Cousin Ed, if
That's
you're gonna
that's
just
what I
do
just
that.
posted for them.
Okay, yeah. So that's perfect. So yeah, you guys, it's. I love that Infinity Investing. It started out for young people. Toby made it. It was a nonprofit for young people. And then because he had Anderson and it was so successful, he wanted to teach financial stewardship and investing and to teach people how to make money like the wealthy. And they make money in stocks and real estate. And so that's what we teach in Infinity. And we do it focused on cash flow. So that's it. And on Saturday, in addition to all the stuff I talked about women, it's also going to be a deep dive into that same strategy that we teach in the stock trading room. I do that piece. I have Nicole DeBraccio, who actually was a finalist on The Apprentice, and she does the really good real estate training piece and talks about all different types of real estate investing. So from everything from wholesaling to mobile home flipping to, turnkey properties to real estate syndication. So you name it, we touch on it. But again, my focus is the stock piece, and I would love to have any of you show up in the trading room tomorrow. I think I will pop in, Cousin Ed, tomorrow. It's Tuesday, right? Yeah, I'll pop in tomorrow because we have this 90-day challenge going on. So I want to make sure, check in and make sure that's going well. But I appreciate you guys so much again, and we'll love to have you guys either in the trading room or on Saturday for our event.
I think you will see a big influx of this community following you via YouTube, via the trading room, and your books and everything else. So myself, Destrin, and you will have a conversation after, just to get some of that more of that information about your books and stuff. But we definitely appreciate you and your time. If everybody can come off mute and just thank her, because like she didn't have to do this. It was out of a whim that I said, let me go ahead and try to get her on, and she was gracious enough to bless us with her time this evening.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you,
King.
Dr.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
Washington. I
much.
so
really
much.
appreciate you coming.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Thank you
thank
Dr.
you,
so
thank
much.
you.
Washington,
Gotta come
thank
back.
Appreciate
Gotta
you.
you.
come back.
Come
Thank you,
back.
Dr.
Yes,
Washington.
yes, thank you.
Thank
So
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys are more than
as you can
welcome.
hear,
My pleasure.
we would love to have you back, and I'm going to pull your coattail to make sure you come back. But I'm just so proud of you, and I don't know you like that, but just to see your face, guys. I wanted to give. Let me if I can pull this up real quick, if y'all don't mind. I had this
Uh-oh.
up. Don't be by. Don't be. Yeah, hold on. Let me see. What room is this? This is screen one. Down there, I'm trying to get like you with different screens. Hold on. There we go. And share screen. Y'all let me know when y'all can see my screen.
We can see your screen.
I can see it.
All right. So
Hey,
these
that's
are
my
the owners of the
company.
these are the owners of the company, but we don't even care about them right now, right? I want y'all to go down the list and look at
Oh my
the
God.
representation. This is the representation. Is okay.
He's gone. Joseph is gone.
So
Ah,
yeah, I want y'all to know we're not joking who we bring into the call.
wow. That's crazy.
That means a lot.
Mhm.
That means a lot. So we are proud of you. You are representing us very well, and we definitely appreciate everything you're doing. So on that note, hats off to you. We appreciate you. We love you, and we definitely looking to have you back.
Thank you. That almost made me cry. I'm looking at website like that. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. I
It's
appreciate
definitely a
it.
blessing to have you representing us well.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm excited, you guys. Now you're gonna have to have me back because
Definitely.
I'm
If
attached.
if any if any you are you
Hey,
we
listen,
definitely have you back,
we'll
and we
send you
might have you for a
we'll
session.
send you honorary rights, you know, induct you into Wall of Fame, all
Yeah,
that.
I did FX trading for Monsanto, Exxon, and Amgen. So you know, I could go back to my
We might
roots.
have we might have to have you back for an Asian session one time. So definitely.
Hey, listen,
But but
you could forget about getting her up for the London. She said she want that time free.
and plus she in LA, so no,
I know, I know.
I know.
All right.
It
But
will
Well,
we
kill you.
appreciate you.
listen.
Everyone go ahead.
I was
I
just saying,
said,
listen,
Oh,
I do travel. You know, I'll be in Georgia every month, so it's not. I'm
oh
tied to LA, Vegas, Georgia. I got options.
we
I
will
think we'll
make it
get it in
happen.
person in Atlanta when you come.
Okay.
We
All
will
right.
definitely make it happen. But people, if you want to get in contact with, please make sure you reach out to myself or Destry. We'll make sure we make some kind of contact. But we definitely will have her back again and again, hopefully. And just let you know, we are working on this 2022 season for Motivational Monday. This is what we do. It's all about you, not about us. So we will have more people, greater guests, and it's all about y'all. So we love each and every one of y'all. Nothing y'all could do about it. Have a great week. Don't forget, tomorrow morning for the London, we will be on 3 a.m. Eastern to 2 a.m. Central.
Yes,
Is it 2
sir.
Central, Donnie?
Yes.
Yes, 2 Central. So we'll see you then. Doctor, hats off to you. We love you.
Thank you. I appreciate
Thank
you
you.
all.
Thank you. Thank you again for coming.
Good
Thank you.
Yes.
night.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank